Everyone, okay, for today's HBL, we'll keep it simple. I want to improve one skill of yours, which will be in your WA2, which is your SRQ skills, your your structured response questions. Okay, we did that a lot in term 1. We did a test, this was the test paper, and it wasn't counted into your WA. I couldn't give you the hard copy in time. So this video will pause in a while, and I'll give you the link to download your scanned marked work so that you can learn from your mistakes. Okay, so now you have downloaded your marked work. Let's go through this, and I want you to do your corrections. Okay, now let's go through this together. All right, now what's SRQ? Let me recap. SRQ, structured response questions, means that I want you to there's two kinds of SRQ questions. There's question 6 and there's also question 7. Okay, question 7 has not been taught to you yet. All right, where you're expected to use the concepts you have learned. Question 6 is a case where we will present you a situation that's happening in Singapore, and we will ask you to then maybe give a reason why it happened, or suggest strategies to solve the problem, or things like that. Okay, so basically we're expecting you to use your own thinking to tease out what is wrong, what's the reason, or to tease out solutions depending on the question. Okay, so the majority of you have improved your question analysis. I see that you know that you are supposed to give one strategy. Okay, but unfortunately a lot of you didn't analyze everything fully and then just jump straight into answering the question. Okay, so as a result, many of you didn't do so well. All right, so what does the different levels mean? Now if you're given L1, okay, if you're given L1, it means that you have not answered the question at all. Okay, you did not give any strategy, you were just talking about hawker culture and things like that. Okay, now if you have a clear strategy, I will give you L2 3 marks. Okay, so a lot of you got L2 3 marks because you identify a strategy, but most of you didn't describe how the strategy works. Who, what, where, when, how, who is doing it, where is it going to happen, when is it going to happen, how often. Okay, all these things I've taught you didn't apply, which is why you're stuck at L2. Okay, now for those who are able to go on to L3, L3 means you did L2, that means you're able to identify a strategy and describe it with details, and possibly it's best that you provide examples. Okay, and you're able to explain how it links back to the question. Okay, so what are some of the common mistakes you all have made? All right, number 1, most of you didn't analyze the question beyond knowing that you need to do a strategy. Okay, so as a result, you didn't go and brainstorm what are you supposed to talk about in your explanation. Okay, number 2, a lot of you are not, that's why a lot of you did not explain to the endpoint, you didn't analyze the question. Okay, number 3, a lot of you are just using templates, who, what, when, how, and then just fill in the blanks from the extract. Okay, instead of using your thinking to come out with a coherent answer. Okay, lastly, I hardly see any planning. I hardly see people checking, okay, whether they have answered the question correctly. All right, so the next time you do SRQ, I do not want clean questions anymore. I expect you to plan a coherent paragraph before you write. Okay, now, so let's analyze the question first. Okay, now before that, right, in every SRQ, you're given an extract. Okay, let me repeat this. Extract is only for you to understand the issue. Okay, this is not a source-based case study. You do not need to use it. You do not need to take out things from here, from inside here, and then infer or whatever. No need. Okay, there is no need to do that. Now you can actually copy some points, okay, from it, but there is no need to. This is just for your reference to give you more ideas. Okay, so now you have this greater clarity of what extract does, right? Okay, so when you look at the question only tell you this is what the extract is about, and the rest of the question has no mention about the extract. So there's no need to copy or make sure you use the extract like source-based question. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's analyze the question. Okay, I'm going to pause for a while and let you think. What are we supposed to talk about in the strategy? What is the strategy supposed to do? Okay, answer the question now. Okay, so I hope you've answered the question. All right, as I pointed out to you, what are you supposed to show? You're supposed to show how your strategy will help hawkers culture in Singapore be preserved for the next few generations. Okay, it is about hawker culture. not multiculturalism, okay, or not about the UNESCO whatsoever. All right, it is about how can we preserve hawker culture for the next few generation. Okay, so in general, right, basically your essay needs to give me only one strategy. One strategy. You're supposed to tell me what is the strategy, give me details, and then you show me how it leads to hawker culture being preserved for the next few generations. Okay, so this is what your whole paragraph need to show. All right, now I'm going to this is what you need to show in your paragraph. Okay, so when I give you all this for the 5W1H, all this is for you to think of how to tell me more about this strategy, so that you can go on to explain it. Okay, now the question only asks for one strategy. If you give me 10 different strategies, you are not answering the question. Okay, so I've marked a few people gave me 5 different strategies, but because you didn't go on to explain and describe it, it's only a L2 3 marks. You only got marks for mentioning strategies. Okay, now I'm going to show you 2 samples, okay, one at a time, and then the question will pop up and you tell me what is wrong with this sample. Okay, first sample, this person wrote it like this. Okay, let me change the spelling. Okay, so this sample, can I get you to pick what is wrong with this answer? Okay, so if you have picked that, because this is like you're trying to infer from the extract, trying to copy things from the extract, yes, you're right. Okay, this has not answered the question at all. All right, the question asks what is the strategy, suggest a strategy. Okay, but this person has not suggested any strategy, so at this stage, right, this person is actually 0 marks. Okay, if you are kind, we give you L11 for talking about hawker centers. All right, to hit L2 3 marks, you must suggest a strategy. Once you suggest, you hit 3 marks. Okay, let's take a look at the other one. Okay, what is wrong with this response? Please pick an option now. Okay, so if but from the options you have realized that what's the problem with this? This is just mentioning strategies after strategies. They didn't explain, they didn't give details. So one strategy is to lower the price of the food. Okay, because it is expensive. Okay, so can you give me more details how to lower the price of the food? How then it address the expensive, and then it will then preserve hawker culture? Never say. Okay, then another strategy out of nowhere, the government can also do advertising. Okay, then suddenly another one, they can also teach students to appreciate hawker food. So give me 3 different strategies for what? Okay, so it's not about long answers. All right, it is about clear, coherent answers. Okay, some of your friends who got 6 marks, 7 marks, they only finished, they did it in like 1/3 of a page. All right, so I'm going to put one strategy here to show how we write it out, but doesn't mean you must follow this strategy. Okay, and in fact, for your questions later, you cannot write this strategy. You have to use your own. Okay, so you can modify whatever you have, or you can look at other suggestions. Okay, so let me pick the most common one. Now, most of you said that the strategy you have in mind. Okay, so plan your answer first. The strategy you have in mind, okay, is to talk about maybe lower the rental. Okay, so how does lower rental preserve it for the next generations? Okay, next few generations. Sorry, I didn't type it properly. Okay, how does it preserve it for the next few generations? Well, a lot of you say that firstly, it will lead to it will make it more possible. That means it's easier to earn profits, for hawkers to earn profits. Okay, so more hawkers, more young people will be attracted to be a hawker. Okay, then a lot of you stop here. So how does this lead to hawker culture being preserved? Go on to tell me. So the next few generations have hawkers. Okay, so there are hawkers from the next few generations to continue with the hawker culture. And then that is how it will lead hawker culture to be preserved for the next few generations. Okay, so if you're not sure how to begin, you start with working backwards. What's your explanation? Okay, how do I know hawker culture is preserved? Well, basically there are people who continue with it. Okay, some of the more popular explanation is, for example, some of you said that youngsters or the next few generation will continue to visit hawker centers. Okay, can also, alright, or continue to visit and support hawker centers, also can. But your strategy must talk about how it makes these next few generations to come. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question now. Can you pick for me which of these points do not explain? Okay, which of these options do not explain to this, can be preserved for the next few generations? Okay, now as you have seen from the MCQ, what happens is that, well, you need to go back. Yes, maybe some of these are, like, for example, stuck over here. Okay, but this hasn't fully talked about how it got to do with the next few generations wanting to preserve it, or hawker culture is preserved for next few generation. You'll need to go on to explain the steps. Okay, now I hope that you are clear on how to do explanation. All right, let's go into details then. How do you write the details? Well, you remember I told you to use the who, what, where, when, how. Okay, what, where, when, how. So you talk about the what really, lower renter. Okay, now can you tell me who are the ones who are going to lower the rental? All right, a lot of you just said lower rental. Who reduce it? Who are the ones who own hawker center? Okay, so maybe you can say that it's the businesses and the government. Okay, so businesses and government. Okay, so you can clarify as hawker centers are owned by businesses and the government. Now, even if you didn't mention government or you didn't mention business, it's okay. That's not the whole point here. All right. The main things that we want you to see, be clear. When you propose a strategy, be clear who is the one who's supposed to take action. Okay. So what can they do? They can lower the rental fees of the hawker stores. Okay. So who is involved? What do they do? Has been mentioned already. Okay. Now, where, when, and how? Okay, is it for all hawker stores, hawker centers, or what? Okay, or is it only at places where not many people want to go, or maybe at popular places, or what? Okay, so we can accept any of these suggestions as long as it makes sense. Okay, so we can put in, so for example, okay, these can be done, especially for hawker centers that are less popular. Okay, so this one is done. Okay, or some of you say not because of less popular, maybe because choose places where the hawkers struggle more. Also can. Okay, main thing is it must be coherent with your explanation. Okay, hawker centers where more hawkers are struggling. Okay, so when we want to do it for a few months or whatever, alright, up to you. Okay, so you can fill in these details and then tell me how it then is preserved for the next few generation. Okay, so the next thing you need to check, does this lead to easier to earn profits and attract more young people to be hawkers, and then all this or not? Okay, if it flows, it makes sense, one step lead to the other, there's no missing steps, then you go on to write. Okay, so you can see how you can change this point form into sentences. Okay, now one more thing, some stylistic things to take note. Number one, please answer the question directly. Okay, a lot of you just say lower the rental. All right, what you need to do is answer the question. The question asks you to explain, answer one strategy, then tell me one strategy. Okay, one strategy could be to, okay, or is to, something like that. Okay, so a lot of you didn't introduce properly your point. It makes it very tough to read what you're trying to mean. Okay, next, remember I told you all, this doesn't give you more marks, but it makes your writing clearer. Before you go on to explain, you need to signal to the reader that you're going to explain. Okay, so this is all the details, right? Then you must tell that they lead to this. You signal them to them that you're going to show the steps. Okay, so you can write this leads to hawker, this can lead to hawker culture in Singapore preserved for the next few generations. Okay, you can just copy and paste. it can be preserved, okay, because it will lead to something like that. Okay, so as you can see, it's very short. I don't need to write one whole page and things like that, and there's no need for me to repeat over and over again. Okay, so lastly, one last point: if you can quote specific examples with names or statistics, that will make your answer even better. Okay, so for example, some of you know that certain places are struggling. You can mention the specific places. For example, Queenstown. I don't know lah. Okay, maybe Queenstown is not popular. Okay, Queenstown Hawker Centre not popular. So you can mention example Queenstown Hawker Centre. Okay, or you can mention certain ministry, specifically which in the who in the government, is it certain ministry or whatsoever. Okay, so after I'm going to end this video, but once it ends, it will pop up a few questions to check on your understanding. Okay, and then for you to that will be for you to then the last part will be for you to write out your corrections. Okay, so please finish up and you are done, and have a good weekend, and for all the Muslim students, happy have a Selamat Hari Raya to you. Okay, see you.